You know, my taxes ought to be going down considerably, because now this land can never be developed. So as of last week, they finally took all the people who had conservation easements in Kendall County and tried to come up with a policy that was fair for everyone. They gave me the results yesterday, and it's very fair. It reduced my county and school tax considerably because of that, because now it can never be developed. It has a different value. Okay.
So are all other counties going along this?
I don't know. I was worried about Kent County.
Yeah.
But I would think so.
Okay.
Maybe Brent can.
The answer is no. Not all counties are. It takes people to educate those counties that are behind. You're going to run into folks who've never heard of a conservation easement in official positions.
Well, I mean, it's all counties around here, and if we have Kendall County.
Sure.
too,
Yes, and so
Did you know if it was already?
I would say that right now what we need to do is see if we can get that documented. If we can get that documented, then we can spread that out to other counties that may not have had that progress.
Kent County didn't know how to handle it either, because they never had addressed it before.
For what an incentive.
But, you know, we finally got them to address that.
Excuse me, in the
Yes,
event that your property would be resold, is that tax break passed on to the next buyer?
The tax break on the value of the land for county and school tax, yes. That return that you were in the process of getting from your reduction of federal income tax, no, that was yours.
No, really.
Right, yes. But preserving the land, you know, when Brent was out a couple of years ago and we were looking at our ranch to put it in the easement, in fact, ironically, this morning I had my monitoring visit, my annual monitoring visit. It just so happened to fall today. And we took a drive around the whole ranch. And what they do as part of that baseline study that Brent referred to, they will go through that land with a fine-tooth comb with a geologist and a botanist, and you will learn more about that land than you ever thought was possible. I have learned so much about not only the identification of everything, but the geological rock formations. The geologist was digging one day when we were there. He said, come here, I want to show you. You're right here. You have the break between the upper Glen Rose and the lower Glen Rose, and he showed me that because of the different fossils that were in the rock on each different side of that break. So it's really very educational and good for passing on to future generations. So what you do in that baseline study is document all your plant life, all your vegetation, you know, all the animal habitat, so that then you can come up with a management plan to optimize what you have that nature provided you. And working with people like Rufus Stevens and others makes it very meaningful. And then if you're in a position that you still want to run livestock, you can work with the NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, and you can come up with the right kind of stocking rates. And that's something I specified there. I don't need anybody to tell me what I need for stocking rates and how I need to rest the land and rotate the stock and all that, because that's what I grew up with. But I put all those specifications in there, that it would be managed that way if you're going to have livestock. Because the point I wanted to make, we saw it again today, when Brent, a few years ago, was looking at our ranch for potentially to be a conservation easement. We drove around the back part of it where it borders another ranch. Totally abused. Nothing there but rocks. I mean, that's all. It's so overgrazed it. It is so sad to see that. And Brent took pictures of it on the fence line just to contrast what it would look like. So I wanted to avoid that at all costs. I never want the land to be abused in that way. So if you specify, it'll have certain stocking rates and certain periods of rest, the way you want to manage a ranch if they still want to operate as a ranch, which is not mandatory, but if they do want to, I don't want it to be abused. And you can talk about ash juniper control. You can get as extensive as you want to. And that's the neat thing about it. It is your conservation easement. You specify what you want. And it took us probably the better part of at least 5-6 months to put together those specifications, because if you have a good law firm like we did, they'll challenge you and make you think of all these things that you take for granted, so you can document it. So anyway, it's a mixture of livestock and wildlife, and however you want to manage it. Brent also mentions that you can specify, as number 4, you can specify not only how it will be managed, but building sites. We specified 4 building sites on the ranch. One has been used, there's 3 left. So you can have those as you want. And I put the building sites all in the front part of the ranch so that the rest of it would be undisturbed, basically. I did put one potential building site way in the back, but it's right, if y'all know Ralph Farrell Road, 3351, our property goes within half a mile of that. So I put one building site back there if future property owners negotiated access to go out Ralph Farrell Road. So maybe give them that as flexibility. Number 5, it's kind of what the lady asked about earlier. You know, I've heard so many of my neighbors say, oh, my children are never going to sell it. They love the land. Besides, I put it in my will that they won't sell it. 2 generations and it's gone. It's out of there. You know, they're looking for the big bucks and it's going to be gone. So that doesn't preserve it. Number 6, it keeps land in one piece if that's the way you want it. And that's the way I have set ours up for management and enjoyment and partnership. You know, they could sell pieces of it, but whoever buys it is limited and constrained and has to apply all the specifications you put in the conservation easement as it's sold.
Ken?
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
ask you something on the building?
Sure.
You're saying that you put in that you wanted like X amount of building signs.
And GPS down to the exact
And so
location.
they, like your grandchildren's grandchildren, can they come back and
Nope.
contest that?
Nope. Once it's done, it's done. That's why they said it's so important. Once you put those specifications in and they're filed, it's a legal document. That's it.
And my understanding always was, and you said something made it different then, that like our grandchildren could sell the property.
Yes, they can.
But I always thought that in the conservation easement, whatever was in the easement had to be sold as a whole. It could not be cut up.
No, it
That's
can't
not
be.
true.
It's not true.
Okay.
It can't be cut up. It can't be cut up. In fact, you know, well, I'll come back to that.
Okay, you can't, but to specify the answer to that, you know, you know, Thomas may want to chime in there, but the point is, it can't be divided and developed.
That's right.
You know, all right? In other words, it doesn't change what's going to happen on the face of the land.
It can be divided, but not developed.
You can specify whatever you want. If you think that maybe you have 3 children and you want to have the right to subdivide into 3 parcels, that might be the way to go. Maybe you just want to create 3 home sites and have the entire parcel not be able to be further subdivided. There's tremendous flexibility here. The only thing you run up against is, as you reserve more rights, you diminish the value of the easement.
That's
That
right.
is an economic consequence. Beyond that, you have to be careful about what it is that's on the property that you're trying to protect. So let's say there's a stream that goes through the property. That's the principal conservation feature that the easement is designed to protect. If you start putting home sites along that stream, then that's going to be less valuable, and the land trust might decide, well, that's not really what we're interested in. So this is all part of a big negotiation, but you have tremendous flexibility there, and can do virtually anything that you have in mind to. We've created easements that have all kinds of dimensions or items that spring in the future in the event of certain eventualities that allow for subdivision under certain circumstances. Maybe that right goes away in 1 generation or 2 generations. See?
What I think will help here is, we're going to let Ken finish his top 10 reasons or whatever. And then let Thomas work on his PowerPoint presentation for you. And that's where I think we can get those specific questions answered in detail.
Number 7 was, Brent alluded to that, you've got to, if you're really serious about pursuing this, you have to find a land management company, which the Civil Nature Conservancy is. And as I looked around, I wanted something local. I wanted something that had the same values that I did, someone that I could trust and really partner with. And to me, the Civil Nature Conservancy is that. And once a year, they do come on that monitoring visit, and I had ours this morning. And it's really very uneventful. It may be more eventful in the future generations because I won't be there. It'll be someone who's only one of the children who's owning the land at the time. But the reason what makes it so easy